Safety, gloves. There are many types of gloves. I like these, but you may prefer something else. When we're doing pruning, these are wonderful. They come all the way up your arm so that you don't get scratched. These are mine. I turned these inside out because I kept getting blisters. These seams are on the inside. I turned them inside out and now don't get blisters. But the drawback on these is you can't get them wet. They'll get hard when you get them wet. So when you're pruning, do only the pruning and don't reach for the soil. These have plastic on the outside. There are so many different kinds. These are mine. I'm going to be using them today. Your pruning shears. Many, many different kinds. They're all bypass, like scissors. That way the canes don't get crushed. This is the anvil kind that we don't want to use because it crushes it on both sides. We only want one side to be crushed. This is a wonderful one for pruning. The one side here turns, so you don't get blisters if you're cutting a lot of them, which I do. Get yourself a holder. I wear this. I need two of them, one for cutting and one for pruning. This is what it looks like if you put your pruning shears down. You'll never find them again in the garden. So make sure that you put them back every single time. That way, you won't lose them. When you're pruning, oh, here, before we go on, these are loppers. When you can't get in close enough or when the cane is too big, you have leverage for that. Come in different sizes, short, long, even bigger than that, but I don't think you need them any bigger than this. My favorite for those really, really thick old canes, my reciprocating saw. I do a lot of pruning. I have over 100 large rose bushes and about 400 plus miniature bushes. So I do a lot of pruning. Sharpening, there are so many sharpening tools out on the market. Some of them I don't even know how to use them, but my favorite is this, the Sharpening Stone, and this is a nail file. When you're sharpening your tool, only the large blade needs to be sharpened. This is only to hold something against it. When you're sharpening your tool, the same angle as the cut, and you only need it a couple or 3 times and it'll be sharpened. You can get this at the beauty supply store, or maybe your favorite manicurist will give you one. Same goes for the sharpening stone. Tools that you need. Anything else? Okay. So let's start with our pruning. You have to know the rose that you're pruning. There are many different types. There are miniatures, of course, tiny little ones, floribundas, as the name implies. Floribunda means lots of flowers, and that's what you want, of course. hybrid teas that are nice, big floral ones that one to a stem, and they're the queen of the rose garden. And of course, they're old garden roses, the ones that your grandmother used to grow. But mostly we have now shrub roses. The hybridizers have really listened to us. They're starting to hybridize disease-resistant roses, easy to grow roses. Some of them don't even need to be pruned at all. So look for those roses. If you're having problems deciding which roses that you should get or where, you can call the San Francisco Rose Society. We have consulting rosarians that are more than willing to help you with selecting and what to use in your rose garden. So with that, we decide to prune. Why do we prune? Well, roses expend a lot of energy growing. And of course, you know, when we prune, we cut all that energy away. But here in our Bay Area or California, usually, we really don't get that cold weather with the 4 seasons where roses freeze almost to the ground. So we need to leave a lot more of our stems and we don't really want to shock them too much. This is the best time of year, December, January, February, to prune the roses. They're the most dormant at this time. Well, they're not really dormant. You can see they're already pushing out new growth. But we can still prune. This is still almost the middle of February. So all the way to the end of February, beginning of March, well, then we really don't want to cut too much of it. All the leaves have to be off of the rose bush. But like I said, I'm a lazy gardener, so I don't strip the roses first. I prune them, and then whatever leaves are left over, I just take those off. You want to take those off because they've been growing and they've been catching diseases and bacteria and what have you. So you want to take those off, though that those don't go over to the new growth. Okay. All right, let's evaluate our bush. Can we start with that one here? Okay, you want me to put it up here? Right. Thank you. Oh, this one has. Okay, let's say this is a hybrid tea rose. When you buy your roses, please, please don't take the labels off. You need to know how to address your rose because they love to know their name. So when you come to your rose bush, say hello and address them by name. This has been growing probably in the bush for a while. There are a lot of different stubs, dead wood that needs to come out. Usually we take off about, 1/4 to 1/3 of the height of the bush. Now, this has been growing in pots. So when this goes into the ground and has more room for those roots to spread out, this is going to get much taller. So we'll keep that in mind, but we want to take all these old stumps out. There's lots of stumps here. So we want to take that out. We prune to an outside facing eye. That means wherever there is, here, this is a good one. Wherever there is a leaf, there's new growth. There is new growth here. You can see that already. There was a leaf here, there is new growth. So even though there is no leaf there, there's going to be new growth. Does that make sense? I hope. All right. The further down we go, the larger the stems will be. and the stronger the new growth will be coming out. We want to have them nice and open in the center so that the growth will go towards the outside and air can circulate on the inside. We'll start by taking most of the growth that goes to the inside off. There is a new growth coming here, but there is one coming to the inside. So we want to take that off, and we'll take that off so it'll grow towards the outside. There's new growth coming here. The further down it comes, the stronger and the bigger the stem will be. There's lots of new growth coming. We want to make sure that, oh, this is already broken here. Well, let's hope somebody, well, let's cut this over here. Now, even though there is no growth here, take my word for it, there are lots and lots and lots of growth in here, lots of growth. This is very thin. We want to take that off. And this is awfully thin at the top. There is new growth coming out here, and there's lots of room for it to grow. So we're going to be cutting it here. We're cutting at a 45-degree angle, the same angle as the buds come out. This is a good example here. This off here. This is about a 45-degree angle, about 1/4 of an inch above the new growth. If we cut it below here, there is nothing to grow. That's how we get these stumps. This is about a 45-degree angle, and that's about where we cut. I'll probably come down further than that, but that's a good example. Okay, this cane is already done, but there is a growth in here. We'll just take that off because it's growing towards the inside. We want to leave as much open space as we can. This is a stump that probably was broken and never recut. And that's dead. There. Okay. I'm just taking these off so I can see what's up. All right, we'll take this down to probably, there's a good outside facing eye. We'll take it down to here, about there. It doesn't have to be exact. I mean, you don't have to measure. It just, you'll get the idea. And this is facing towards the outside. All right, go one stem at a time. There is a stem here. This is going to be in the way here. All right. This is going towards the inside. So we want to, let's take it off to here. There's new growth here already, and there's new growth here already. The higher up you go, the more room is to grow. So even if it faces a little towards the inside, like this one right here, there's room to grow towards the up. It's further up high. There is new growth. Oh, this is really good. And we want to take that off. Little by little, we're getting rid of all of the leaves on this one here. Okay. Let's take this cane here. There's dead here, dead here, dead here. But just because it's dead doesn't mean, can you see that? Doesn't mean there is new growth already here, even though it was dead here. All right. We want an outside facing eye to about here. And this is inside. We want to take that off because there's new growth coming out already here. Lots of new growth. This is really kind of spindly here, and there's all kinds of growth. We're going to just cut it away here so this can grow. That's only going to be thin. Think of a river. The tributaries to the Amazon are small. They're smaller. And the further it goes to the main river, the larger it's going to get. And this is sort of in reverse. The closer it gets to the main, the bigger it gets. As you can see, starts out small, bigger, bigger, bigger. Starts out big, smaller, 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 smaller. Okay. We take off all the dead growth that we don't need. All right. This little knob down here is considered a bud union. The bush that you see up here is not the same as your roots. They took one of those little buds and budded it onto a very vigorous growing rose and let it grow. And then this bud, this is probably a 3-year-old bush. This bud grew a lot of different ones. Remember I said there is lots of growth right around there, right around there. That's the same as down here. Lots of new buds are in here. We can't see them, but they're there. And the further back we cut, the more will get activated to here. But this is going to have to come out, so we'll see. We're going to cut first at the top. If there are any dead ones, we'll cut the dead ones. This is really too spindly. We want to get rid of that. Okay, this is already too small. Okay, all dead. Oh, this is a good one right here. There. Do you agree, Tyler?
Yeah. Not many left.
Okay. All right. So we go stem by stem. There's a thorn in here somewhere. All right, we go stem by stem. This is a middle one that grew to the center. Ooh, something made its home in here. Okay. So what are we going to do with this? We're going to let it grow over in that direction. It's a nice thick stem. Okay. This is just a small little growth. We don't want that. Remember I said there's lots of eyes in here. I'm going to cut that off. And I can't see it from here. There. Oh, let's let it grow this way, up in this direction. Oh dear. All right, we'll go one cane at a time. All right, while we're here. Oh, I can't get to it. Well, let me turn this around. There's lots of pruning to do on this one here. This is really a good one. Okay, we'll work our way down. No sense going toward the center when all this is still growing. Work your way down towards it. This is not going to do much. We need to take that off. And there is sometimes you have to be a contortionist to get to these. And like I said, this has been growing for a while. And we need to take this off because it's girdling this. But we're not going to throw it away. We're going to keep this. See, it's already there. Okay, we're going to keep this. We're not going to throw this away. What I'd like to do is there. And we'll put this right there. And this is really a weak growth. So we're going to take it all the way down to here. And guess what? This will be active. This will start activating. There's lots of growth in here. Let's do this.
Hey, Taylor, how did she know it was a weak growth?
We're going to take,
How do you know it was a weak growth?
because it was really tiny, like these really tiny ones. Remember when I said the smaller they are, the next one will be smaller again. So you can see right here, this is a nice strong cane, but the ones that came out were smaller and smaller. And then the one after that was even smaller. So we want this new growth to be almost as big as this. But if we let this grow, only a smaller one will come out. We're going to take this stump off right here. Go. And there's a stump here, but it wants to grow already here and here and here and here. And there's dead here. We don't want that. We're going to cut that off. Any questions so far?
Yep, we do have a couple of questions.
All right, we're going to let
I have one about
a few, okay?
roses
Take
that
questions.
send out like a new shoot out of the ground that are like
This
sending
is
running
usually the
roots out
time when I
laterally.
get questions.
Roses that have new shoots coming out of the ground. Continue.
Yes,
Say the question one more time.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so one of the questions is about roses that send new shoots out
okay,
of the
I'm just
ground,
cutting all of the dead
further
wood
over.
off.
Roses that have new shoots that are sending it where? Further over?
Yeah, that are sending new shoots out of the ground. So like new, it almost looks like a new rose bush is coming up.
New
next
shoots
to
out
it.
of the ground?
Yes.
Okay. If it comes from anywhere on that nub, that bud union in here, that's wonderful. That's what you need. New growth coming out. It may not always be the same color. Sometimes, in this case, the canes are reddish, but most of the canes are green. But when the new shoots come from here, they haven't been exposed to the sun as much. So they will probably be red. And don't think that that is a sucker. No, a sucker is a new word. A sucker is a cane that comes out of the root system. It's usually a little ways away from this little nub here, grows maybe from the side. That means it's coming from the roots, from the one that is underneath there. You don't want to let that grow because it will take the first nutrient and will become very strong, eventually killing the bush that's up here because it's very vigorous. That's why this bush was butted onto here. So we want to go dig down all the way and gouge it out. We want to hurt it so that it won't regrow. If you cut it, it's the same as if you're cutting this up here. We're cutting this to get new growth. We're getting it, cutting it so that we get more vigorous growth. That's not what we want from this sucker. So that's why we want to gouge it out, pull it out. And don't let it grow too tall. When you see it coming from here, dig down. It's okay if you hurt some of these roots, the bush will grow them back. Go down to where it's coming from. Sometimes the bush will grow something down into the ground and then out. We'll make sure that you're not getting a real cane that you want. Just dig down. That's why we say dig down to where it's coming from. If it goes straight down, it's a sucker for sure. Okay? If it comes around from underneath here, that's okay. Am I answering a question?
That's perfect. Taylor, we have a
Okay.
couple of more if you can relay them.
All right. Go ahead. I can answer questions.
One is about using
This one
eggshells
here.
as fertilizer, or if it helps at all. I don't know if it's kind of an old myth, whether or not putting eggshells down is good for roses.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Let them dry first. After you use them, let them dry, crunch them up, put them into the ground, put them into your compost heap. That's fine. It's calcium. It's wonderful.
Perfect. And then what
Okay,
about
I'm going to
pruning
cut
back
this
the
off
old
because there's a
growth?
nice new growth coming here. I think we're going to cut
Say that
this.
one more time.
What about
Going to cut
pruning
this
back
down
like
a little
old
bit more.
growth?
What about pruning back old growth? Like really old growth, pruning that back.
Yes, you may grow me. It depends on all of this is old growth. This has been around for, well, you can see for quite a while. This is kind of old, but it's okay. It's okay to cut it back into the old growth, but not as far back as you would maybe new canes.
Want to show this one?
No, that's a different subject. Yeah, you can cut it. This was the first one that we grew. We pruned. I'm going to be pruning that to make it more uniform. This is about the height that we want. This is way, way at the top. So I'm going to be cutting it a little bit more to conform. This is okay for that growth to come up because the next one goes this way, the next one goes this way. You can tell where all of these are going. These are fine because they want to go way at the top. All right, now we have arrived. You notice that there aren't any more leaves. They're all off. So now we're coming to the bud union where all this, yes, this is the bud union right here. And we want to clean that up. There is, oops, sorry about that. Can't get to that from this side. This is all dead and we don't want that to die back any further. This is all dead, crusty stuff. We want new growth to come here. We want the sun to hit that so that it activates all those eyes that are in there.
Taylor, she doesn't have climbing roses listed on her outline. Will you ask if she's going to talk specifically about climbing roses?
You're asking if we're going to be talking about climbing roses.
Yes, I'm going to be talking about climbing roses a little bit later.
Yeah,
Stick around. Stick around. We're doing one bush at a time. Okay. I'm going to be cutting this, but I need a bigger one. And we want to be cutting it flush. There we go. Do the best you can. Okay, now that we've pruned, we want to clean up any debris that is left around the rose bush. Oh, I don't have a garbage. Yeah, we'll put it on the table. Okay, we'll do all the way around. So we got nice openness. This is growing this way. This is growing out. This is growing this way. I think we can cut that just a little bit more. We'll cut it about here. There, we'll let that go. And we've got lots of room for all of these new buds to do their thing. Any questions on this one?
I think we're good on that one. Everything that I've got questions on
Yes.
is
Okay, good.
next topic.
We're okay on this one. Now, next one. Let's do this one here. That's a Floribunda. Yes. Okay. Okay. Oh, I'm just going to put it on the ground here. We can sweep it up later. How's that? All right.
Taylor, can you
This
ask her
is
about roses that are
Burgundy
still
iceberg.
blooming?
It's a Floribunda. Now,
Also ask about roses that are still blooming. What do you do?
yes, cut the blooms off, take them into the house, enjoy them, and then prune your roses, your rose bushes.
Yeah.
I know this year is really strange because a lot of the bushes are almost in full bloom still, and they think it's summer or something. I don't know. All right, Floribundas. We want a lot more growth on Floribundas than we do on hybrid teas. We're going to leave a little bit more and thinner canes because Floribundas grow easier on smaller canes. But we still do the principle the same. We'll try and get it as open as we can in the center and to an outside facing eye. And all the leaves are coming off. So all the principles are the same. Start on one cane, sort of look at your bush on what it does, if it faces in one direction, if it's growing next to a walkway. We really don't want those canes to be facing out the new growth. So we're trying to prune them so that they face sideways and not go out into the walkway so that people get snagged on that. All right, let's do this. We'll start on this one here. There is really nothing happening on this one. It's growing to the inside. And so is this one here, if I can get to it. You have to be a contortionist. It's great exercise. Gardening is the best exercise that you can do, and you're getting something accomplished in the meantime. All right. There's nothing happening here. We're still on the same cane. All right. All this little tiny growth we really don't want, but oh boy, there is growth here. All right. There'll be all kinds of new growth coming out in here, and especially down here because we pruned it from the top. This is all dead. When you prune, be sure that you prune to an eye. There was no eye here when it was cut off. That's why it died back. This was lucky that it stopped here, but a lot of times it just keeps going and going and going and going. And guess what? Pretty soon you lose your whole cane. So make sure that you always cut to an eye. When you cut your blooms off, make sure you're cutting it to an outside facing eye, or at least to an eye, so that the next growth will come out from there. Don't just cut it and leave that. The eye is actually here. But all of this, the sap comes all the way to the top, always to the top. If you've noticed that always the top blooms first, it's called apical dominance. All of it goes to the top before it slowly starts activating down. So this is what happens here. The sap comes all the way up to here, but there's nothing to do anything with. So it starts dying back, dying back, dying back. And if you're lucky, this will be activated. Here we were lucky, it activated it. But it doesn't always happen that way. So it can die, and then it dies, starts dying back, then you better watch out. Okay, any questions on that? Again, the same thing here.
I think we're good on that, Taylor.
Oh, we were on this one here. Questions?
No, we're good.
Good, okay. All right. We want to take all this dead wood off. We're still on this cane here. This is dead. This is dead. And since this is going to the inside and it's broken already, can you see this? It's broken already right here. We need to cut that off. It's not going to do anything, but there are eyes underneath here that can activate. This is dead. Oh, we'll have to get this out of the way. Okay. Well, there's lots and lots of growth already starting, wanting to do something. There. Oh, lots and lots of growth in here. In fact, you can see them wanting to do something already. And there's growth here and here. It's a beautiful burgundy color, white on the outside and burgundy on the inside. It's a sport of iceberg. And iceberg is a good grower here in this area. These are all little ones that I'm cutting off, so let's see, we'll leave that. How's that? There's all kinds of growth. This is already growing here. There. We want to make these as dormant as we can this time of year. Okay, we did this. We need to finish that. This is growing towards the inside. We want to take that off. And that is already. Okay. Yeah, that's too thin. Let's do that. Okay. And oh my. Let's cut that off. There's growth here, but we still have to prune. Oh, this is already broken. Let's cut that here. Okay. That'll grow beautifully as long as we're on that. All right. So that's about the height that we want. Let's go down to here. You notice I'm doing one cane at a time. If you just start haphazardly, then pretty soon you lose control. You forgot, oh, I shouldn't have cut that. Oh, maybe this one needs it. Oh, maybe that doesn't. So go one at a time, keep it in mind what you're doing.
I think they're looking into maybe transitioning to a climbing rose demo.
Yes, we'll do a climbing rose next. Okay, let's do that here. Okay. Shall I stop here and go to the climbing rose? All right.
Let's keep our time today.
All right.
Last thoughts
You-
on it.
Yeah, right. This is the last of it. Okay, well, from different angles, you can see it in different ways. This is growing this way now. So this cane would be next. But you can see already that we're leaving a whole lot thinner canes than we did on the other one. The floribundas are okay. The more growth you leave on, the more blooms you're going to get, but the blooms will be smaller. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's go to a climbing rose, and that is, okay, all right. Let's see.
Taylor, can you ask her a question for me while we're revamping there about moving roses from
All
one
right.
place in a garden to the
The
other?
climbing rose.
She's actually asking before we said there.
Yes.
Questions about moving roses from one place to another. Transplantation.
Yes, this is the time to do that. Get your new hole ready before you start transplanting. Excuse me. You want to dig the hole, amend it, and then dig up your rose bush. Water the rose bush before, water it well before you're expecting it, like a day before, a couple days before you're expecting to dig it up, because then it will be turgent all the way into the canes. When you're digging it up, do a nice big root ball, bring it to the new hole and put it in, water it, fill half with soil, water it, fill some more with soil, and sort of put a little bit more soil over the top and water it well. Make sure that you water it well so that because you've been cutting off some of these feeder roots, so it's not going to be feeding too well. That's why you want it to be as much turgent as you can. Question answered? Okay. This is Cecile Brunner. It's a huge bush if you let it. But we're pruning it like a climber, which it can be. Oh. Okay. This is from the nursery, but I'm going to leave some of the long canes. Some of these long canes have been cut already. Okay. We'll cut the strings that are holding it in place. When you prune your climbing roses, you have to take all of the supports off first so that you see which ones are needing to be pruned and which you can leave. You can prune some of the big canes from the bottom if they're really old. Take one off. Another one next year, but leave at least 3, 4 if you have that room. Now, when you're pruning a climbing rose, it's a little bit different than if you're pruning a bush rose. You want to keep these long canes because your new blooms will be coming off of these canes. So what you want to do is you want to keep them at an angle. Remember when I said, if you leave it up at the top, up topical dominance, this will grow at the top, but you're not getting anything from the bottom. So if you do it like at an angle, then this will activate all along in here and you're getting lots and lots of blooms. That is the difference between the climbing roses. It doesn't mean that you can't prune them. You can still prune them, but you want to keep in mind that you keep these long canes. Now, eventually, if you don't have room, if you have only so much room and it wants to go beyond that, you can cut the ends of it. It will still activate as long as you keep these at an angle. We have a nice pyramid here. When usually we have a wall or a fence where you can attach it to, but if you have that in the middle of your garden, you can still use that pyramid and you can angle it around like so. Do you see what I'm doing?
Wrapping it.
You're wrapping it, and look what's happening. It's at an angle. The canes are at an angle, and they're all going to get activated. So you can do that, or you can do it here with something like this, and you can do, I'm going to leave this tag on because it's going to be resold. You can do this, still get it up, but it is at an angle. It's not straight up like so. It's at an angle and you need to tie it down. Climbing roses are not true climbers. They don't have tendrils that hold on. You have to tie it on. Well, you can do it through here if you want to incorporate it. Oh, stay there. If you want to incorporate it and do it like we did on here, you still have it at an angle and you get new growth off of each one. You want to do the same thing as you do with the bushes. All of the leaves will have to come off, and you can prune some of these side shoots. Leave some of the long ones so that you have more to wrap around, but you want to take all these leaves off because you're going to get all these nice canes here. It's all new growth already. And this one here and this one here will start growing and making longer. If you want these longer, if you want them way over here, let them grow. Let them grow. This has already been cut here, but these can be let grow. Instead of pruning them like this, you can just let them grow and grow and grow. Some of these down here, we can cut. And look, they're starting already to get new growth. If you prune them close, you'll get stronger canes than what you had before. I'm going to leave this one here because it's going to become a long one. And then we're going to get blooms out of here. But you still take the leaves off. Don't pull them off because then you're injuring the canes and it leaves an entrance for bacteria. Don't pull the leaves off, cut them off. Okay, this is already new growth. Well, we want to cut some of these off.
So with climbing roses, it's more leaving long canes.
Leave the long canes and make sure you get some kind of an angle on them so that you get all of these new blooms coming out. For climbing roses, same thing. If you want an arch, you let the long canes grow and then arch them. And then you're getting all these flowers at the top. But if you also want some new blooms from the bottom up, you can wrap around the support before you get to the top, and then bring that over so that you have some kind of an angle way down here before it grows to the top. And then you get blooms down at the bottom. Okay?
Good space to talk about some sprays and fertilizer.
Yes, we can. Let's keep these together here. I cut all the supports off, but we can wrap these around again. Any other questions on climbing roses?
We've got some questions, just
No questions on
clarifying,
climbing roses?
clarifying
I
the
always carry
pink
some
leaves.
of these ties so we can tie these together here and don't have them flopping all over the place.
And Sharon, did you say you had a question about the climbing rose?
Yeah, she mentioned taking off
The
the
seal
leaves.
Bruner is an
and-
old type rose. It's over 120 years old. The largest rose in the world is a Cecile Bruner in Tucson, Arizona. It's been there for over 100 years. Okay, when you're all done pruning your roses, you may want to think about amending your soil. Put mulch on it, you can add some extra soil to it. If the rose has sunk down, which it does sometimes, add it to the top. The soil, the bacteria is what you're feeding in your soil. The roses can't eat solid food. They eat liquid food. And the bacteria, the good bacteria, there are lots of more good ones than bad ones in the soil that convert this solid food into the type of food that your roses can absorb. And it's amazing how they take all these nutrients, the basic stuff that we can't use, they take and convert it and use sunshine and make their own food out of it. So you really work in conjunction with your soil. And that's the most important, because all this is all gravy at the top. What you're really needing to do is feed your soil. And you can do that with all kinds of amendments they have all kinds of flower food and mulch and steer manure and all of that. It doesn't sound too good to us, but it's really good stuff for your roses. Fish emulsion, my go-to. This is what I feed my roses during the year. Maxie, it's the most wonderful stuff. And of course, kelp. They're really harvesting kelp now and finding all kinds of good stuff. And they're really trying to feed us kelp. And there really is a lot of good stuff in kelp. And they're doing kelp fields now where they're really harvesting it. So it's good. It's good all the way around. If you're looking for information, this is a very good book. It's Growing Roses that the San Francisco Rose Society did. It's not a book with lots of pictures, but it has information in here. If you read it, it's my Bible. If I have a question that I forgot about, I look through here and it's there. So this is a very good book I can recommend. It's not very expensive, but you can go to it. Also, San Francisco Rose Society, like I've said before, has a lot of information for you. You can go online and find information there. Also, Consulting Rosarians, the American Rose Society has Consulting Rosarians. We're trained. It takes years for that information to be able to convey.
Someone's asking, do you fertilize right now in February or a couple of times throughout the year?
Okay. Right now, all the leaves are off the bushes after you're done pruning. They have no way to convert food. But like I said, if you feed your soil, use organics in the soil, they take time to break down. So by the time your rose bushes have grown leaves, they can absorb and use those nutrients. Chemical fertilizers you want to use later, once they have the leaves, like April, May. Right now you want to use organic food. Feed your soil, you're feeding your roses. All right?
How's it going?
Any other problems? Any other questions?
No problems.
Oh,
We have a
I just want to real quickly hit on the bushes that you're buying right now. This is what, notice I don't touch a rose bush without gloves. This is how you're buying your bushes from the nursery. When they get their bushes, they pot them up or they buy them potted up already. But the growers take them out of the field, they're all field grown, and lay them on a conveyor belt and they get cut straight. The roots get cut, the tops get cut, but they don't care whether it's an outside facing eye, inside facing eye, or wherever they face to. So you will have to start recutting to where you want these to go. This is an outside facing eye. You want to prune to here because the next one is already facing inside and you don't want that to go there. There is an outside facing eye here. This is just a thorn. So you want to prune it to there. Whenever you prune, you're stimulating the rose bush to start growing more. We have an inside facing eye, which is not particularly good, but it's at the top, so it can grow to the top. That's a thorn right there.
That's the eye right
That's the eye right there. Okay, and this is not very good in the center. So you do have to do something to your rose bush when you buy them. This is kind of broken here. You want to clean that up. Okay. And there is an eye facing that way. That's kind of broken. Okay. Let's take this one. There is nothing happening here. Okay. All right. There you go. And that's how you can grow your rose. When you buy it in a pot, this can stay in a pot for, a few months, maybe even the rest of the year. But then you will have to put it in the ground or put it in a bigger pot, at least 15 or 16 gallon container with good potting soil. Any other questions?
Yes, we do have a couple of questions, Taylor. One, somebody wanted us to repeat the name of the book.
Have questions?
Oops. Sorry, Shannon, I didn't hear that one.
That's okay. The name of the book that she showed.
The name of the book.
The name of the book is Growing Roses in the San Francisco Bay Area and Maritime Influence Climates.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. I think that you've hit everything.
The one book has all the answers.
Ask was about mulch.
All right.
Last thing was about mulch. Do you mulch your roses?
Yes, especially now that we have still the drought, even though we got a lot of rain. It's not enough because we're still needing rain and we're not getting it. So
Right.
we do mulch and save as much as we can on our water. I recommend getting a drip system. It really does save, and get a timer where it can time it automatically.
Taylor, is just a normal bark okay for mulching?
Normal bark, okay for mulching? Just normal bark,
What kind of bark?
like maybe fir bark?
Fir bark, yes. Bark is not really, depend, if it's small, yes. The bigger ones, it just harbors insects in between. So get smaller ones, yes. Mhm. And
Okay,
don't forget to fertilize with nitrogen, because as the bark breaks down, it will consume nitrogen and take it away from your bush. So you have to add extra nitrogen to it.
all right, Taylor, I feel like that's perfect. That's a lot of info.
Other questions?
And
Right.
yeah,
Thank you.
of course. Let me do a quick little outro for you, Rose. So Rose Gilardi is with us from the San Francisco Rose Society.
Okay.
I was remiss in giving a very good background for Rose earlier. I apologize, but she has been a
Rose
director
Society.
and on the board for
Okay.
the International Rose Society. She's a consulting rosarian. She is part of the International Rose Society Judging Committee. So to say that Rose comes with a wealth of information is, you know, certainly an understatement. Rose has, she's given her email address in case there's any questions that we weren't able to answer here. So if you have anything specific for Rose, you can reach out to her at, and you guys are gonna love this, perfectrose1, the number 1, at sbcglobal.net. So if you have anything
Yeah.
specific you want to reach out to Rose with, definitely
Rose is saying
do.
to make sure to write stuff down,
Yes,
right?
right. Have a garden diary where you write everything down.
Yes. Yeah, having a garden diary, whether for your roses or for everything else, I mean, such a good idea. Thanks, Rose, for that tip. I'm sure that there's a million other questions. Like I said, definitely catch Rose at her email address. You can always get in touch with us at Slope Gardens, and we'll answer as many questions as we can. It's been awesome having you guys all here today. Taylor, thank you for cameramanning and relaying questions. And we appreciate you guys sticking with us as we kind of work through our technical issues, trying to get everything perfect for every webinar. Sometimes they're different and we have to, you know, adjust. So we appreciate you guys being so patient with us. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Remember, we'll see you on Wednesday evening with Elizabeth Ruiz for pruning Japanese maples. And definitely come on down to your local Slope Garden Center and pick up dormant roses. We've got lots in stock, and now you know how to prune them and take care of them. You guys have a great weekend. It has been a pleasure. Shannon Fitzpatrick from the Pleasant Hill store, Taylor and Rose from the Sloat store #1 in San Francisco on Sloat Boulevard. You guys take care. See you next time.